Well, here we are on the road again. Today, I'm headed up to Columbus, Ohio. Got to get a night guard. Got to pick it up from my dentist. So, what the plan is, we're going to go out here, out 64, hit 35, take 35 up to 23 to Columbus. And oh boy, it's going to be fun. So, we're just driving. Right up here, we're getting ready to pass Nitro, the exit to Nitro. The only kind of interesting thing about Nitro I know, on Sermon Audio, there is this church. I'll put a link in the description, but there's this church, and I even forget the name of it, but they sound like a really, really small church. You know, just a handful of people, but they're getting their sermons up on the internet out for people to listen to. I think they're pretty good. Sometimes the guy goes a little off, but most of the time I really agree with him. I haven't listened to them in quite a while. I hope they're still there, but if I find them, I'll put a link in the description, like I said. Right up here, we're going to cross the Great Canal River. There are, if you've ever driven through here, if you're on 64 and you go through Charleston, you'll cross the Great Canal River once, twice, 3 times, I think. Just on 64 through Charleston, you wind around, crossing the river. I think the name of it's actually just the Kanawha River, but I call it the Great Kanawha River to differentiate it from the Little Kanawha River that's up near Parkersburg. It is, my clock says it's 7:45 right now, 7:45 a.m. I used to drive this road. I drove from Huntington to Charleston to get to work, then I drove back to Huntington to go home, and I'd wake up and leave home at like 6 o'clock in the morning to avoid all this traffic, because it is absolutely crazy. Oh, I suppose I ought to say, I've tried lots of different things to mount this GoPro. The first couple of my videos, I just took it and kind of stuck it in the air vent. That's why you see a lot of dashboard on them. Then the one I did that's from Charleston to Parkersburg, that time lapse, I used some rubber bands and rubber banded it to the mirror. But I wasn't real happy with that, because then I could never move my mirror, and it was in kind of a little bit off position. So today what I did, I think it's supposed to be like a hat clip thing for it. I think it came with the headband kit thing that you can wear, but it's just a clip. And my first thought was, well, I could put it in the dash and just leave it like that. Well, it didn't really fit in the vents like the other one did, so I went ahead and took it, and it's crammed up above the sun visor. And so if you look at the camera, the GoPro is actually upside down. It's got a mode where you can tell it that it's upside down and you want it to flip the video. We'll see how that does it. Well, this is the new exit to get on this new 35 they made. Used to, you can go on up to, I think it's Teays Valley. You go on up to Teays Valley, and then you kind of wind up through the country, and it was this little dinky kind of 2-lane road. Well, it isn't that anymore, and it's kind of this bigger road. I don't really have too much else to say the rest of the trip. I could film the whole thing and talk the whole way, but you probably don't want to hear me do that. That will end up. Have any of you guys ever listened to Jack Spirko of the Survival Podcast? Well, he started off, I forget when it was. He started off eons ago, and he had this big long commute to and from work, and he had, I think he started off with this headset thing, but his first podcast, like his first year of podcasting, he did it all from the car while he was driving out the road, and every once in a while you'd hear him do things like toot the horn and talk to people as they drove by because they couldn't drive, that kind of stuff. But anyway, I don't think you guys want to hear me drone on for like 3.5 hours, and I don't have an outline of stuff to talk about anyway, so it'd just be me droning on and on and on. So what I think I'm going to do, it's starting to rain now. You guys could, watch the windshield wipers go back and forth and all that fun stuff. But what I think I'm going to do is put this camera into time-lapse mode, and I'll just take a time-lapse of my trip up to Columbus, and then see how much time I got left when I get there. So we'll catch y'all here in a bit. Well, I'm back. The speed limit just went up again, but anyway, I passed a sign for Cornstalk something or other. Cornstalk Recreation Area, something like that. I'll have to Google it and see what it really is. But that made me start thinking, I'm going to cross the river up here in, where is it? It's Ravenswood? Anyway, I don't know. I'm going to cross the river. Yeah, I think it is Ravenswood. No, it's in Gallipolis. Anyway, that got me thinking. I think it was here. There was the Silver Bridge, and the Silver Bridge collapsed. You ought to look it up. Happened in 1960 something or other, maybe 50s. Anyway, it was this bridge. It was made up of a bunch of individual links, kind of like a chain, and one of them got a crack and the bridge fell apart. But I'll let you go read the details. But the Cornstalk thing and the Silver Bridge collapse, some people talk about, there was this Indian chief named Cornstalk who was here, and there was what was actually, well, what some people say was the first battle of, I think, the Revolutionary War. It was called Lord Dunmore's War, I think, if I've got it right. But the British and the Indians fought here around Gallipolis, Ohio. And as the Cornstalk guy was being killed, he pronounced this curse on the area. I think if I've got my story right. Now, I don't believe in curses and things like that working that way. But so the story goes, he pronounced this curse on the British in the area and that sort of thing. And some people think that when the Silver Bridge collapsed, that was Cornstalk's revenge. But that got me thinking about the Mothman. Yeah, go figure. How did those two things go together? Anyway, you can go read about the Mothman. There was an X-Files episode about it. But it's kind of interesting to read one of those unsolved stories of the area sort of thing. Well, I'm going to go ahead. You guys don't need to listen to me talk anymore. We're going to go back into the time lapse, and I'll listen to some more Rush, and then I'll talk to you sometime later. Well, I'm back again. I don't know how long this is, I'm going to be able to record or that kind of stuff. We'll see here. But I just went by Rio Grande. That's where Ohio University is. It's also where the Bob Evans farm is. I was back to roadways. Probably just about 3 seconds in the time lapse. But it's Rio Grande, not Rio Grande. The Rio Grande is a river in Texas. Rio Grande is a city here in Ohio. Kind of like city over in France. You know, all kinds of strange things. Missouri has a city named Nevada. The state is called Nevada. Anyway, you can go on. But anyway, I was listening, and that reminded me of something I'd read in the news this morning, or was it yesterday? I forget. Anyway, there was a school in Virginia that had, it was some class, and they made the students, maybe it was geography, world religion, something like that, and they had to copy the Shahada as kind of an example of calligraphy, which I don't get how copying it tells you anything about calligraphy, but that kind of got me thinking about another headline that I had seen about this school, I think in Kentucky, where they censored a Charlie Brown Christmas. They cut the part out of it where Linus gives the true story of Christmas, the Christian story of Christmas, to kind of contrast it with all of the other commercialism and plays and things like that you see in the film. and I don't know, that kind of got me thinking. I don't get how the liberals, and if you guys watch this and come across this, leave me a comment, but how in your minds it's okay to censor something like a Charlie Brown Christmas, even though it does talk about religion. That film is more American culture than it is Christian, and it's a part of our culture and kind of who we are as a country, and is illustrative of that. But then on the flip side, it's okay to copy this text, which is clearly religious, and it is not only clearly religious, but according to Muslims in the Quran, the way you become a Muslim is by saying the Shahada. And I don't care that they copied Arabic script to learn about calligraphy, but how is the one okay and the other not okay? How do you, in your minds, kind of put these things together and say, oh, we cannot show a Charlie Brown Christmas or that part of it, the religious part of it, but it's okay for students to copy this clearly religious text to learn about calligraphy. And I guess that, comparing and contrasting these two things, in my mind, kind of shows how liberalism is inconsistent, because clearly I would think in general, now I'll admit I'm painting with a broad brush here, but I would think that liberals wouldn't really necessarily care about copying the Shahada to learn about calligraphy, because it wasn't in English, the students wouldn't have known what it said, etc., etc., etc. But we can't do the other. So in my mind, I'm assuming that liberals would not have a problem with copying the Shahada, but would have a problem showing A Charlie Brown Christmas, or at least the religious part of A Charlie Brown Christmas, because the one is the government endorsing a religion, but the other you gloss over somehow. How do you, in your mind, kind of put these two things together and not see the distinction? Because to me, to many people, if the one is wrong, if it's wrong for the state to endorse a religion to the point that they have to censor a cultural presentation like A Charlie Brown Christmas, yes, it has religion in it, but the idea of A Charlie Brown Christmas is more cultural than anything, really. If it's okay to censor that, then why is it proper for them to copy this piece of text that, according to Islam, once you say it, you're a Muslim? I really don't get it. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sign off here for a little bit, and we'll see what goes from there. Well, actually, I'm not going to come back on. I just realized that I don't have space on this card to do too much more of that. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to end it now, and you're not going to get any of my return trip. I'm going to have to work on my settings. One thing I want to do here in January, we're going on a ski trip. We're going out west to Colorado, and I want to take a time lapse of that trip, kind of like I took a time lapse of my trip to Wyoming a while ago. I think on my YouTube channel there's some of that there. At least the trip back is. I think I lost the trip out, but anyway, I want to try to do that with our trip to Colorado, just because I think it's kind of cool. But I need to tweak the settings for this GoPro, because I don't know, maybe I just need a bigger card, or maybe I need to take smaller pictures. I don't know. But anyway, I'll look into it, so hopefully that gets done. But you're going to miss the rest of my trip to Columbus. So anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to everyone later. Bye for now. Hey, I'm back. I came back. This was interesting. This truck I'm passing says anti-icing liquid. I've gone through some areas where it looks like it's going to snow, and maybe even a little bit of snow on the roads. But Ohio, what they do, or what some places in Ohio do, is they put brine on the roads, like a salt and water mix kind of thing, before it starts. Instead of just putting rock salt on the roads like normal people do, they put this brine mixture on. But what was interesting, and what you didn't see because they slowed down so much, was that behind the truck someone was following the brine truck so people don't get up too close behind them. So I just thought that was funny, that in an effort to save money, I assume, by using brine, it now takes two vehicles to salt the roads instead of the normal one. So anyway, that's my funny Ohio story.